Hello and welcome to the Aragon Analytics review of the Century Arms RAS 47. This particular rifle seems to be one of the most hated, or just reviled, whatever you want to call it, rifles on the market currently. And it's been so for quite some time, ever since another YouTuber, Rob Ski, who I happen to respect quite a bit, had some less than desirable results after a 5,000 round torture test of this particular rifle. Well, not this one, but this particular model of rifle. And it kind of intrigued me because you see a lot of information on YouTube, and a lot of times you're looking at a sample of one that particular product. Another prominent YouTuber, James Yeager, who I also enjoy, I enjoy his videos quite a bit. He had quite a different take on the rifle, and a lot of people have accused him of being a shill and a lot of other things. And my initial thoughts were the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. Is the rifle really that bad? I was wondering. And I was wondering that particularly because the AK that I had at the time that I decided to purchase this rifle, well, actually I had two choices out of my inventory. There was a AK pistol and a rifle. The pistol was one of the Yugoslavian PAP pistols, and I'm relatively happy with that. That'll be another review and another discussion for another time. The rifle in question was an IO Inc., and I don't want to put out too many spoilers because I will be reviewing that rifle as well, but I was less than satisfied with the performance of that rifle. So I started shopping around, and top tier AK, couple thousand, and a couple months waiting for a Rifle Dynamics AK from Jim Fuller didn't seem realistic to me based on my budget and my lack of patience. Although it would be awesome to have one, I didn't want the wait. And what I was looking for was a less expensive yet reliable rifle, something I could use as a truck gun or a trunk gun, depending on which vehicle I was driving that day. Something that I could rely on, but something that wouldn't be quite as heartbreaking to lose or have stolen as, say, like a $3,000 AR setup. So I thought, just a basic AK would be good, and the RAS 47 intrigued me. The American-made thing was appealing. The nitride finish, which is very nice on the rifle, intrigued me. But I wanted to take a look at a couple of arsenals first, and I went to some local retailers. They had a few Arsenal rifles each. Every single one of those rifles had a horrible finish and extremely, not a little bit canted, but extremely canted, meaning tipped to one side or the other, front sight. The sights on every one of those rifles were so out of whack that I would have had to send them back to Arsenal right after purchasing the gun, and I'm not going to go through that. So then I was back to, well, I don't want to spend $2,000, I don't want to spend really over $1,000, and here sits this RAS 47, which, for the use that I had planned for the rifle, which was just a handy rifle to keep in the trunk of my car for that, oh my god, just in case kind of thing, I really didn't want to lay out that much money. So I thought, well, how bad could the RAS 47 be? So I rolled the dice. I went to a local retailer and I purchased this rifle here in its basic format with the really crappy wood furniture for $650. And obviously, I've gone through and made some additions to the rifle. We'll talk about those a little bit later in the review. So as far as getting into the meat and potatoes of the evaluation, let's go over some of the basics of the rifle. The RAS 47 is obviously it's a 7.62 by 39 millimeter AK stamped receiver, 16.5-inch barrel with a 1 in 10 twist. The barrel's threaded 14 by 1 left hand. Weight is 7.8 pounds, and as I stated, this rifle originally came with the wood furniture. Now, the wood furniture I knew was going to be substandard, but I didn't want to go ahead and purchase the full-blown Zukov front end, but I did want the Zukov folding stock, and I didn't want to wait around. There was some availability issues with the MOE RASs at that point, so I just went ahead and bought the wood furniture one, knowing that I was just going to rip the furniture off it before it even made one trip to the range, which I did. As far as this particular RAS, this one actually has the new generation sight rail, which if you take a look at this part of the rifle down here, you can see that the scope mount is not the standard AK type mount that we are used to seeing. It is a proprietary one from Century. And you know, when I noticed that, I mean, I knew it was a possibility. You never know exactly what you're going to be getting. I knew that it was a possibility that this particular mounting surface would be on the rifle when I got it. And I wasn't too thrilled with it, but we'll get back to that when we get to accessories. As far as magazines, for this particular rifle, obviously it's using the Magpul. This one happens to be the metal reinforced Magpul, which I really love, but I'm not sure that it's absolutely necessary for this particular rifle. It's a lot harder doing this in reverse on camera. We'll just set that magazine to the side for the moment. Now, as far as modifications to the gun, let's see, we'll start at the top, or at the tip. Don't know if this will come through on camera too well, and it's kind of hard to jockey this thing around. But I went ahead and ordered one of the tritium front sights that replaces the front sight post. These work really great because it provides a white rectangle with a tritium dot in the middle and then a black outline around that. So no matter what kind of target you're shooting at, you're basically always able to pick up the sight. I went ahead and added one of these Daniel Defense offset light mounts and just threw what did I have on hand? Streamlight for it. I also added this Midwest Industries gas tube, which is railed, thinking, you know, in case I want to put a red dot on it, whatever. And also I found that, you know, with my hand size on this forend, mounting anything to the forend light-wise puts the light really too far back for my comfort. So even if I'm not using a red dot, this provides a nice place for that tactical light. Then, of course, the Magpul front end, the standard MOE AK front end, and the truly excellent Zukov folding stock, which is adjustable for both length of pull and can be adjusted for comb height if you get a separate attachment for it. The comb height's just fine for me as is. The folding mechanism is nice and sturdy, and it feels rock solid when you're using it. Every AK I own, I would prefer to have one of these doodads here. This is the Krebs custom enhanced AK safety. And that basically allows me to actuate the safety with just my index finger. And I can run an AK without it. It's not a real huge problem. But I would prefer to have it on the rifle. And then this is just an MOE 2-point sling that has a QD in the back, so I can take advantage of this part of the Zukov stock. And because I'm just using the standard mounting point on the AK on the front, I switched the front to a clip style. So enough about the accessories. How is the gun? Well, when I looked over the gun, all the rivets were just fine. The sight did have a very slight cant to it, although it's not really going to show up on camera. It's so minimal, and there was absolutely zero problem. No pun intended. Sorry, folks. No problem zeroing the rifle. Also, I forgot an accessory. Sorry, folks. This is, I believe, a Tapco birdcage style flash hider. I'm not really big on brakes on rifles. Rifles are loud enough, and when it comes to 7.62 .39, 5.56, 300 blackout, any of the intermediate calibers, if you're shooting an intermediate caliber and you're that afraid of the punishing recoil of a 5.56 or a 7.62 .39, maybe you better take up a different hobby or a different sport. I'm much more concerned about flash suppression, and I don't like blowing out the eardrums of the people shooting to my left and to my right. Like I said, they're just loud enough, and because this is also a home defense rifle for me, I just don't want the added muzzle blast, especially indoors. Plus, it's more tactically sound, I suppose, to have a flash suppressor on there. Although I haven't fired this thing at night, and I can't really attest to the value of that birdcage. I don't know how well it works with this rifle in this particular round. On to performance, reliability, and accuracy. We'll start with accuracy. Now, for accuracy testing, I'm not the world's greatest rifle shot, and I am definitely not great with this short sight radius setup that comes on AK rifles. It's quick to pick up, especially with that tritium XS front sight post in there, but I'm not going to be the kind of guy who's going to get one MOA out of a rifle with these sights, even if the rifle were capable of doing so. Now, this rifle does, in addition to having a reputation for chewing itself apart and beating itself up, it also has a reputation for pretty good accuracy. That part of the reviews that I've heard on YouTube turned out to be absolutely true. For the accuracy testing portion of my review of this gun, I utilize the primary arms 1:6 ACSS reticle scope with this RS regulate mount. I'm not going to get too far into the scope and mount right now because I want to do a separate review on the scope and mount. And yes, folks, I know these are arms QDs, and I know that I don't need to have them on there, and I know that they're very heavy. They're what I had on hand at the time. I won't need it to get to the range on a specific day. That's why they're on the scope right now. But when you're looking at ordering one of these RS Regulate mounts for the rifle, make sure that you order I believe it's the 309M model, which is specific to the RAS 47 and that kind of kooky mount. Actually, just for giggles, I'll go ahead and throw it on the rifle while we're talking about accuracy. The rifle is not a sniper rifle by any stretch of the imagination, but as far as 7.62 AKs go, I'd rate it as above average, maybe. Like I said, I'm not an AK expert, I'm not a rifle expert, but I do have some experience. My first rifle was an AK. Back in 1989, I purchased a Polytech AK, a stamp receiver AK, for the enormous price of $300, and it included 1,000 rounds of ammo. Obviously, those days are long gone, but it was a great rifle, and now, when I bought the rifle, everybody called it Chinese junk. Now everybody's singing its praises. That's another thing that kind of intrigued me about this gun, because everybody's saying, oh, it's garbage, it's junk. And I'm kind of wondering, many years from now, will people look back at the $650 Century RAS 47 and say, you know what, in retrospect, that was a damn good rifle. And with this particular generation of RAS 47, that very well may be the case. I was able to achieve with the optic right around 2 MOA, and that's not with Hornady or anything fancy. It was just regular Wolf ammo. The gun shot wonderfully, and I was very, very pleased with the accuracy results. Excuse me. Part of that was due to the nitrided barrel, and which is slightly thicker, I forgot to mention, than some AK barrel profiles. So 2 MOA out of an AK with a stamped receiver, for me and my shooting skill, I'm happy with 2 MOA out of this gun, especially since this gun is going to basically be set up without the optic on it. Just iron sights. This is going to be for 0 out to maybe 100. But the thing is, even with the iron sights, I was able to hit a man-sized, torso-sized rather, steel silhouette out to 200 off a table. You know, it was a supported shot, but you know, you can hit it with boring regularity with the irons alone. So if I can hit a man-sized target out to 200 yards with this rifle, I'm happy. It's not set up for target shooting. It is a defensive implement, and that's it. Now on to the reliability. This is not an ultra high rounds count review. This is not going to be, in my systems, it's not going to be an ultra high rounds count rifle at all. It's going to be something that I get dialed in, something that I maintain, that I get sighted in, you know, something that I lubricate, maintain, and keep ready for that, oh my god, just in case thing. So you know, keep that in mind when you hear that the rounds count on this review is relatively low. I don't have an exact number for you. I will say that I took the rifle out on 2 separate occasions. Both visits were roughly 250. That's a 250 round conservative estimate. It was probably more than that. So rounds count is around 500 to 600 rounds. I don't think that I will manage to get 5,000 rounds through this rifle during my lifetime or during the time that I own it. But based upon what I see in the internals, and we'll get to that in a second, I don't think that, you know, having a few thousand rounds through this is going to be a problem. I have heard, and I don't have the specifics on this, that Century did alter their heat treating process, and that apparently the first few batches of rifles that went out basically chewed themselves up while in use. And I also heard that if the Rockwell hardness of the moving parts inside the rifle, the parts that grind against each other as the rifle operates, if they're off by more than 1 point on the Rockwell scale, they will chew themselves apart. Now this is a newer gun. I didn't get it super cleaned up for you. We'll crack it open in a second, but one last word on the accuracy. I think that the accuracy has a lot to do with the rifling, and it also has a lot to do with what I think is an excellent combat trigger. You can see the reset is very positive. There's a little take up. You hit a wall and it breaks clean. I actually love the trigger on this. I'm a fan of 2-stage triggers. If I can get them, I prefer a 2-stage trigger. I don't like being surprised. I like knowing exactly when it's going to break. And this thing breaks predictably, and it breaks clean. So, trigger's wonderful. Accuracy is wonderful. Out of the 500 to 600 rounds I have through the gun, not a single malfunction of any kind. There were not even any ammunition-related problems, so kudos to Wolf on that one. Now, when you break the thing down, it's, you know, standard AK stuff. The only reason I'm doing this is essentially just to try and hold up the gas piston and the carrier and the bolt so you guys can see it. I did kind of wipe things down so that you could see the wear on the bearing surfaces, but as you can see, there's wear on the finish, but there's no metal missing. There's no signs of metal starting to deform or mushroom. The only exception to that is on the dovetail back here, as Robski refers to it. I'm not sure if that's the exact term. There is some slight flattening, and I noticed it during the first string of fire, and then I checked it again after the second string of fire, or the second trip to the range rather. And I'll try to hold that up for the camera a little better so you can see it. It seems to have kind of flattened out to a degree and then kind of stopped flattening. And, you know, I'll continue to keep an eye on it, you know, whatever. Doesn't bother me as it is. But anyhow, that's a look at the inside. Oh, look at the trunnion. Yeah, no catastrophic failures, you know. No evil lizard people conspiracies at Century, you know, devising guns that... sorry, it's kind of hard to move this thing around properly for you. All I can say is the gun's performed flawlessly for me so far. And, you know, I'll just have to keep an eye on it. That's all. There's really not a lot more to say than that. It's a reliably wonderful gun. And the reason I'm stalling is somewhere I had a no-go gauge. So you're going to have to excuse me for half a second here while I go find it. And we'll do the famous go, no-go test. Okay folks, sorry about that. So here's the no-go gauge, the infamous no-go gauge test. I wonder if this rifle will be safe to use, since it was obviously, you know, conceived of by demonic entities designed to bilk us of all our funds and make rifles explode in our faces after 2 shots. So let me make sure that this is, you can see the no-go gauge in there. Okay, one more time. Not even close. So, you know, here's the thing, guys. If you're interested in one of these things, you know, get a no-go gauge. And if you're really that uber concerned about it, consider it part of your maintenance procedures when you clean the gun. Just check it with a no-go gauge after you shoot it. I've also come across some information regarding no-go gauges in general, and apparently a no-go gauge will tell you that there is, you know, some wear starting in the chamber, but it's not an indication that you're looking at some kind of catastrophic failure. If you can get a no-go gauge in there, be concerned. If you can get a field gauge in there, don't fire the gun. That's what I've been told. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, one criticism of this gun, the latch on the dust cover is a little bit tight, even now. So, okay. And to me, these things just don't look right without a magazine in them. So, to make a long story short, or actually I kind of made it a little longer than I originally intended, sorry. I've been trying to make these videos a little shorter, but sometimes I get long-winded. It's worth the money. Now granted, I have added some extra doodads. If you're going to buy one of these, make sure it either comes with the MOE stuff or the Zhukov stuff on it, or put it, you know, buy it with plans of putting it on yourself. The Midwest Industries rail here has been fine. It stays in place. If you follow the directions and install it properly, it's fine. The excess front sight is going to go on any AK that I ever own until or unless something better comes along. So anyway, thank you for coming by again to check out what is hopefully what you consider some cool stuff. And thank you for the views, and we'll see you in the next video.